Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so give us a little introduction about yourself.
My name is Johnson Fowler. I'm from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, so pretty close nearby. I'm a grad student at St. Thomas and play defensive back on the football team.
I love that, bro. I love that. But we're gonna get straight into it today. I'm gonna get you with a topic, and we can both share our experiences, just go back and forth, and we're just gonna get right into it. All right?
Let's do it.
So I want to talk about today vulnerability, and I want to talk about vulnerability just because I feel like it's a very underrated skill, I believe, in the game. Just having an individual be aware of what vulnerability can do for them is very important. And I don't think people talk about it enough. I think our society kind of frowns upon it.
Especially being a guy.
Yeah, exactly. And an athlete at that.
Exactly.
Vulnerability in a lot of conversations means weakness.
Yeah.
You know, it means letting your guard down, that kind of thing. But I argue against that. 'Cause I think it makes the strongest type of athlete if they can really tap into that openness with oneself. So. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about vulnerability in the game, and then we're just gonna kind of go from there. So
Sounds good.
Again, like we just kind of touched on, in society, vulnerability is just it's really sad, but it is frowned upon as a trait to have, and I feel like that's really backwards. And I'm saying that just because vulnerability allows you to be open, not just with the outer world, but internally as well. And I think when people are vulnerable internally, they allow themselves to become the best versions of themselves that they could possibly be. Yeah. And I would say like that individual, if you can be that in tune with yourself, you allow yourself so many different opportunities. And so vulnerability is a skill. And I don't think enough people know that. It's a skill. So it's that willingness to grow your perspective, it's that willingness to grow yourself. And that's huge, man. So like, tell me, what's been your experience with being vulnerable in the place that you're in, playing at a Division I level, talking to your coaches, your teammates? What's been your experience so far with how do you feel about that word?
It's very interesting. You said vulnerability is a skill. I never really thought about that in that aspect, I guess, but that's very interesting. But I guess like being here at St. Thomas, being D1 and all, like it's great. But at the end of the day, like just know who I am as a person, know where I came from. That means way more to me than just being an athlete. Right. I guess like that comes from like my parents growing up. Like they've been pretty straight up with me and my siblings. Like, they always say like know where you're from, remember who you are. Because like growing up where I grew up, it's like way different. Like my parents didn't have that much opportunity like I have now that I'm here. Because like I'm usually from Liberia, West Africa. Right. So I moved there when I was 5. And just my parents are constantly reminding me like remember where you're from, remember where you came from. Like that always stuck with me. So like, no matter where I am, like how far I'm in life, I always got to remember like myself and who I am as a person. So that means a lot to me, and that's something that they taught me at a very young age. That just always stick with me.
Okay, and I mean, in your athletic career, do you feel like you're an individual who is vulnerable when necessary, or when you need to be, or like how do you go about that?
I guess like I'm not really that vulnerable, I would say. Like I feel like I don't really show my emotions as well. Like I'm always the type of guy that just like keep a straight face on. Like either always smiling and just always straight up face. Like that's just who I am. That's my personality. But I feel like there should be time where I should be more vulnerable, but then I'm not for some reason. I don't really know, but that's just who I am. I feel like there's definitely some instances where like I've been vulnerable to like my teammates, just telling guys like I love them, just like as a brother to be like I love you, man, and stuff like that. So that's instances where I have been vulnerable, but there should be more where I have been. I feel like just being an athlete, we don't talk about like vulnerability like that. So I feel like having podcasts like this really helps a lot. But that's something like I eventually got to work on, just being more vulnerable to myself and just like people that I really do care about.
No, that's real, and I love that you said like how sometimes you can find yourself in that moment of like, hey, like telling your teammates like I love you, bro. Like that does mean something. That's the guys that you playing next to you and everything out there, going to war with you. So like when you're hearing messages like that and it's just in the air, that's where that unspoken chemistry comes in and whatnot. And man, like that's hard to beat. That's hard to compete against for anybody. So yeah, no, and that's most certainly a part of like being vulnerable and whatnot. It's also funny to me to hear you say that's something that you don't really tap into its maximum. And I'm only saying that in the sense of, I wonder why not. You know, like, and I only wonder why not, just because I really do feel like, is it because of the pressures of society that you're not, or is it because like maybe you think that you have everything that you need, you know, physically on the field, and maybe you do. You know, I'm not saying that you don't, but is it stemming from any certain place, you think?
Well, I guess like society plays a part of it because like society is like the norm is like guys are meant to be tough, not meant to show emotions, all that. So that plays a part of it. But like, I feel like just being an athlete, like especially a football player, like guys are not supposed to show emotion at all. Like that's like a sign of weakness to some people. Just showing even a little smile is like a sign of weakness. I feel like for me personally, like that's something like I've always struggled with, just showing emotions like that. Because like for some reason I really didn't know, but like just showing emotions is like, I guess I see it as a sign of weakness, but to me it's just like that's just who I am. Like,
and I think it's almost scary too. Like to be that way, just like you imagine if you're too vulnerable with your coaches, they're like, okay, like he doesn't get it, he doesn't know what he's doing. If, you know, it's like I said earlier, like it's frowned upon. Like, okay, if he doesn't get the message, if he's saying that he can't do this or that he's, you know, weak in this area, it almost feels like, okay, is he gonna put me down in the depth chart because of it? Am I gonna lose my spot? Am I gonna lose my role with the team? And I think that's really discouraging, you know, for guys to like feel that way, you know, guys and girls, you know, to feel that way in their respective sports. And I'm like, that needs to be tweaked. That needs to be redone. That needs to be the total polar opposite, because a player that does have the mindset, coach, like, I'm willing to grow. Like, can you help me here? Because I recognize that this is a weak point in my game, or this is, you know, an area of improvement for me personally. That becomes an undeniable player. And why wouldn't you want to be that?
I guess I would say, like, just coming here, like the whole Crookston thing, just coming here really helped me a lot, like, to grow as a person, just knowing, like, football is kind of business.
Right.
It's kind of like, who do you trust, who do you not trust in, like, the whole coaching process and transitioning to, like, another school. It's like, that was hard on me, just like I said, I was only a sophomore when the whole Crookston thing happened. We can talk about it later, but so like coming here is like brought me like new perspective, like how who do I want to see myself, like who do I want to be, and I knew like if I was to come here, I was gonna stay, like I wasn't gonna turn anywhere else.
Right.
So like coming here, like the guys on the team really brought me in as a brother. And that's something I really appreciated when I first transferred here. It's just like the guys just open arms. Like, they're all like, hey, come hang out with us. Like let's do this together. Like eat lunch together.
Big,
like,
man.
that to me is like them showing me respect. It's like, okay, I can trust you now. Now I can be more open to you guys. And that's all part of our availability, just being open to each other.
Right.
Like, plus, not just the guys, but like the coaches. Like, our head coach, Coach Caruso, has been a really good guy to me, a good mentor. Not just a coach, but like as a mentor, like a father figure. So is all the coaching staff here. But like, they really open up to me and show that I can be emotional. Like, they actually want us to be emotional with each other. Like, tell guys you love them. Just, not just tell, but actually mean it. Like, have a connection to the guys. I feel like all that put together has like really been good for me here at St. Thomas. Just having guys I know that I can count on, not just for football, but like life beyond football, like after we're done football, just all that kind of stuff. Like means a lot.
Yeah, no, that's totally it, man. It really is, and it just hits a lot of points of emphasis that I feel like need to be like shown and like, you know, almost, you know, like just implemented, like almost like it needs to be known in sports, like that you can be like that you should be like that. That just, you know, promotes the right type of environment, just both to play in and just to execute at a high level for you as an individual, just even in a mental, you know, capacity, just to be able to think freely and not judge yourself, be so quick to judge yourself, to, you know, tear yourself down or like be hesitant about everything. Like I said, like vulnerability is a skill. You know, I don't think that a lot of people view it that way, but it is. It's your ability to grow, like perspective. Your perception of what you're doing is everything. Perception is everything. And if you're able to develop that skill by quite literally just being more open to opportunities, like that's going to continue to allow you to grow. Like if I'm able to tell my coach, like, coach, like I'm not able, I like, can you help me out? I like tackling this 230-pound back as a corner, and you know, at 180 pounds, every time he's busting up the third level, like that's tough on me, coach.
Yeah.
You know, and if we can run through and all the numbers and breakdown analysis and stuff like that we have access to nowadays, it's like, let's go run the tape. You know, if I could openly say that to my coach, we can go run through the film. We can go break down the percentages even. Like, hey, you're successful making tackles 81% of the time. As a corner, you're making, you know, we'll take that 20% and we'll lean on your teammates for the other 20, you know? So, like, I mean, like, just being able to have, like, just like that conversation, that hypothetical conversation, to be able to say that to your coach and then them respond in a way of like, okay, well, let me throw it back at you like this. You're this successful at your tackle rate. That would give me a psychological advantage. And I feel like that would be the same for anybody. Like, you know what? I'm not as bad as I thought I was. You know, that, you know, tackling that guy might not be that bad. I just got to be there, you know? But that's huge to me, man. And I feel like that is something that definitely needs to be embedded into sport. You know, this new culture of being open, of being just honest with oneself. It's just, it'll allow you to be the best player you can be, and that guy is more dangerous, is more undeniable than the guy that's just, you know, in the gym, like you said, like moving weights and whatnot. Like, those are the guys that are, sure, you might be undeniable physically, but if you can put the whole message together to yourself, you know, I'm mentally strong, I'm physically strong, I'm emotionally strong, you're emotionally in check, man, that's an undeniable player. It's gonna outdo the physical strength, the physical speed. It's gonna outdo that thing 100% of the time. So that's something, you know, like how would you feel if a teammate comes to you and he's to admit a weakness to you? Like, how would you approach that situation?
Well, I feel like I would just be open to listening. Like, that's the first thing, just being open to listen, trying to talk about like their struggles. Like, that's a sign of respect, that's a sign of love. Like, you're showing them, if you're vulnerable with me, I'll be vulnerable with you. So just listening to the person talk about like where they're struggling with, like, it's crucial. Because like, you could be the person that day that they listen to and they change their whole perspective of life.
Absolutely.
So that's a key, it's just being a listener. But I feel like every team also taught me that. I feel like, one, I would listen and just listen, listen in silence or just listen like with some advice to it, but just listening and just telling them like, how can we fix this?
Yeah.
It's like, I just don't want you to just go away by yourself. Like, I actually want to help you as a brother, as a teammate beyond football. Like, I'm here for you. Like, let's talk about it. Like, what is it that you're going through that I can help?
You made a great point. Like, with the whole, like, how that one conversation, that one point in time can literally change their whole perspective of life. You know, that's huge, man. It's so underrated. And it's like, that can happen in 30 seconds. You can literally change somebody's life in 30 seconds. So to like, and that's why I say, like, you know, just to have that ability to be open, that gives you that for your whole perspective of life to change in 30 seconds because you're willing to be open to a teammate, like, man, that would be huge. You know,
I guess also add to that, just them coming to you is like, shows that they trust you enough to even tell you stuff like that. Because some guys are very personal, and they can open up to you like that. It shows that how much they trust and love you and respect your opinion. So I feel like you should do the same thing for them, just listening.
Absolutely. Do you have an experience like that, like where you've been open to a player that you can recall?
Well, like, I've been able to feel my teammates, just telling them like stuff I go through every day, just like always trying to plan my future. That's something I struggle with, just planning like like what I want to do. Because now I'm about to graduate. It's like, I want to get a job. Like, I'm stressed about getting a job, stressed about my career. That's something that I struggle with. But then just having guys that are there just listening, like, you got this. Like, bro, it's okay. Like, you don't have to have everything planned out right away. I feel like that takes a toll off of me, and just live in the moment. Bro.
Yes.
Just be present. Like, life is a beautiful thing, and just worry about like the future when like you're missing everything that just happened in like the moments. I feel like just having guys and just tell them to just slow down, and just know that God got me. Like, my future's in His hand. Like, so that is really helpful.
Absolutely, and that support system, man. Like, that's what it builds for you. Is just extending upon that support system, even beyond family. And that's what it becomes ultimately. Your teammates, you know, you end up bringing them in. You embrace them as your family, especially when that longevity is behind it, in terms of like spending 4 years at a university or said thing. So, but with that being the case, building that kind of rapport with another individual, man, like it's crazy to think about. Like, it's crazy to think about. Just the compound, just like love that you gain from that. Just the compound, like, just understanding of like, okay, I went to Johnson. he gave me this perception. You know, I was thinking far left, he brought me back, and he gave me far right. I was able to meet it in the middle. To build on that and to then be like, okay, now I have confidence going back into that situation, whether on field or off field, you know? Now I can truly be myself. I can truly play with my ability, you know, and my top ability, my maximum capacity, because I went to go get that advice. And now only that, now I'm productive, you know? Now I'm doing what I know that I can be doing at the level that I know I could be doing it. And now that's put me ahead. So it's like, man, it's like literally like building on these things. It's just crazy because it's so exponential, and it's from these little small things of just caring about each other, hearing each other out, you know, just being there for one another, just that kind of, you know, that from that perspective. So, man, like I said, like it's like it really truly is a value that I don't think enough of us have, and I really do. We should. I just feel like we should, you know, like don't be scared of that. Like, I know it's really intimidating to be that way, but and like I said, especially to a coach, like I know in my own experience, you know, playing college ball, I was terrified to let a coach know a weakness of mine. It was like, okay, like if I'm already, you know, 2 people down on the depth chart, me bringing up a weakness to you, you're gonna bury me, you know, like, and that is tough, man. Like it puts you in a really tough position. And I think just the notion of be strong, like, you know, like you said earlier, like be a man, like, you know, be barbaric, you know, we should be hearing Metal Click, we should be hearing, you know, nothing, you know, no tears, no this, no, man, we put so much into the sport. Yeah. We push so much of our lives, our emotional investment, our mental investment, our physical investment into sport. We are allowed to feel those things that we are denying ourselves, you know, that emotional vulnerability. And we shouldn't be put in a corner, you know, to feel like we can't say those things. Because again, like at the end of the day, you being that way to a coach, I should have been able to approach my coach and be like, hey, like this is worrying me, you know, this is where I feel like I can get better in my game. I want to execute at a higher level. How do I do that? You know, and in return, as my coach, I really feel like that's then on you, you know, in your position to then coach me up and make me that way, you know, the better player that I can be, so you can get the most out of me. And I think, you know, and that in turn, again, like it's that exponential factor of like, okay, now I just help myself, which just helped my coach, which just helped my team, which just helped us, you know, and hopefully wins, you know, provided in W's. So I don't know. It definitely needs a tweaking of the understanding of like how we're doing that, you know, now and today.
Well, like you said, like bringing more W's. I feel like last season was like probably like the closest I felt like our team has been since I've been here. Because like last season, like everyone said like there's not a single guy on our team I feel like I don't trust. Like,
right.
I know every guy's by their first name, and I feel like I can trust every guy on our team. Like to have those deep conversations with guys, even like from a freshman to a sophomore to a junior to a senior. I feel like I trust every single body on our team that I can come up to and just be like, hey, there's something going on I want to talk to you about. I feel like they will be open to do that. I feel like that's why we had such a tight bond with each other last year, and we were like produce on the field. Like all that stuff translate from just having conversations like to winning, and
that's
we can.
Deep.
And I saw that last year because like last year we won 10-1 and won our conference. Just our second year in Division I. I feel like all that come into play just because how close we were as a group, like as a unit, both offense and defense, just like players, brotherhood just comes together. I feel like we built such a close bond with each other. I feel like everybody knew who each other was and knew our strengths and weaknesses because that's how close we were.
Right.
And in the end, that ended up paying off for us because like we did a lot of great things just in our second year D2, and that doesn't explain how like guys can come together that quick.
Right.
Then I don't know, like, and I feel like that's like the beauty of sports. Like it just brings people together.
Yep.
No matter where you're from or like your background.
It's powerful.
As long as you're open to each other and just form those relationships. Like I said, relationships is like the best thing here.
Right.
Just being athletes, just have people that you can trust. I feel like we built that here, and I feel like that's going to keep helping us get better and better each year. Just have those relationships.
It's the same. Yeah. Speaking of relationships, like it's the same type of vulnerability that most people have with their immediate families.
Yeah.
And I think that's where all that that production does come from. Is if I'm able to communicate with someone as I would communicate with my brother, my mom, my dad, my sister, like, why wouldn't we be productive?
Exactly.
That's us gelling as a unit, as a family. So no, I love that point, and it's exactly right. So yeah, man, like that conversation, it needs to be a continuing, ongoing thing, and we need to help each other out, support each other. And I know, like, this platform, this field awareness brand, like, that's something that is really embodied here, in the brand itself, in the program. Like, I really want to give people that back, like, hey, like, this is a way that we can do this successfully. Like, you don't have to just come at it at a physical perspective of, hey, I need to lift more weights, I need to be faster, I need to be stronger. Not all the time. You're 10 times out of 10. You will not be the biggest guy on the field.
Facts.
You will not be the fastest guy on the field.
Yeah.
You will not be the strongest guy on the field. But if you can outwit someone, if you can outsmart someone, if you can play with the knowledge base that's so, again, like, undeniable, with the confidence, in the support group, your coaches, your teammates, your staff, your training staff, your equipment people, your fans, if you can play with that same confidence or the higher confidence of, like, they got my back, they trust what I'm gonna do out here, all of that becomes worth being vulnerable, And if that's all I had to do to make all of that happen and be a very successful collegiate athlete, man, 10 out of 10 times, like, sign me up, I know in my experience, I definitely walked that path of, like, I'm in this alone. I did that, and it hurt me. It really hurt me. It set me back. And I didn't realize it at the time, because I'm just working so hard to make something happen, and you're just, killing yourself. Oh, I could have did that better. I should have said this in that meeting. I could have went about this play in this way. I could, and when you're doing that to yourself and tearing yourself up mentally, like, it pulls you back even more, So it's like not understanding. It's the whole thing of, like, squeezing the soap too tightly, like wanting something so bad that you're squeezing it like this, and it slips through your fingers anyway, falls on the ground, when you can just hold it, understand, like, hey, like you talked about embracing a moment earlier, embracing what the experience is, just holding the soap calmly.
Yeah.
And being able to fully be aware of, like, everything that's going on, and, open to different things. Man, it would have been a totally different experience. And I know, for me personally, having that mentor, having that support coach, I didn't feel like I had that back then. Had I been able to lean on a big brother type, I definitely feel like things would have been a lot different for me, even just from that mental perspective. And that's where I aim to help, you all, like, in athletes everywhere. Be that big brother figure that I know that I needed, that I know that I wanted, that I know that would have helped my career. Like, would you think, for you personally, do you feel like, and I from what you're saying, like, it sounds like you already kind of got, like, you got a lot of support in your corner as far as your teammates, your coaching staff. It sounds great. With a personal coach, with a personal individual, you and them, do you feel like you would have benefited from that anywhere in your career? Like, even at the Crookston thing, or do you feel like you would have benefited from it?
You're saying, like, if I didn't have people, like, in my corner?
Yeah. Or even, let's just go with your actual experience. Like, is there, like, hey, if you have somebody to point you in the right direction, like, if you have somebody to tell you, hey, let's not forget about this side of things, do you feel like that helps you out as an athlete?
No, I feel like if I didn't have those top people in my corner, I feel like I wouldn't be where I am today. I feel like, yes, I probably would have still been playing football, but I wouldn't be playing, like, at the level and, like, the passion and, like, the confidence I have today. If not, people just having me every single day, just cheering me on.
Awesome.
I feel like it's, like, so crucial, especially when an athlete, to have, like, a huge support staff.
Right.
Like, not just, like, your parents and people, like, on campus, just, like, the fellow students on campus that support you and see, like, hey, I know that guy.
Right.
Good game the other day. Like, just having stuff like that, those moments, like, it just brings everything together. And that's why I feel like sports is such a huge thing, just having those people. I feel like if I didn't have those people like those in my life, I definitely wouldn't be the player I'm today. I won't for sure not be the person I'm today. It's just, like, everybody just bring different perspective in my life that I really truly appreciate, not just from, like, playing football, but, like, just people knowing me just besides football is, like, the best thing to me. And I feel like it was interesting when you were saying before, hopefully I say, like, the words right, but, like, you were talking about, like, it sounded to me like you were talking about how, like, you didn't have, like, those people in your life, and that's very true. So thanks for sharing that. But I feel like just where I am in my life, like, I've know, like, my true identity. I feel like sports it's like it's part of my identity, but that's just not who I am as a person. I feel like once you get to separate those two things, like I'm not just an athlete, like I'm Jonathan Fowler, like I'm my own person. I feel like just having guys from my FCA group, and like my SALT company, like church group, I feel like just having guys help me in those moments finding out like, just because you're a football player, that doesn't mean that's who
all
you are.
Right.
And I feel like just having those conversations with those guys really truly helped me become like I'm more than just an athlete. Like I'm a Christian, like I'm a son, I'm a brother. I feel like all that helped me a lot, and just like besides just saying I'm just a football player and that's who I am. But like no, I'm so much more than just a football player. Like I feel like just having those conversations, those talks really helped. They changed my life, like for some good reasons. Because before that, I was just thinking I'm just an athlete. That's how people see me. Like why not just be that for the rest of my life? But
it's hard to think around
I'm
that.
so much more than just an athlete. I feel like having these talks, and like your brand, feel awareness. I feel like having those talks is really gonna help athletes out there just know like. Just because you play a sport, that's not your true identity. And just finding yourself and just finding God, to be honest, like can help you through everything in life. I feel like just those talks of those guys from my SALT and my FCA group really did help me change my whole perspective about like who I am as a person. Yeah,
and again, that's another situation where you make yourself vulnerable to those FCA guys, you know, and again, like that's a credit to you. I don't want you to underrate it for what it is. Like that is a testament to you, like you being open enough to go seek that kind of support, for you to be open to, you know, be that vulnerable with them. Like, hey, like guys, like I am emotionally in tune, you know, like I am able to get on this level and do it and execute it what sounds like at a high level in this way too. I don't just perform on the field. I'm trying to perform in my mind. I'm trying to perform off the field. I'm trying to perform emotionally. To have that stuff, man, like it's so, man, it's crucial. It's crucial. It changes your whole experience. But yeah, what about? Because I heard you had an injury. And just to kind of keep going with the vulnerability topic, like, how was that experience for you? I have my own experience but I'll tell it after yours. But how was that for you?
Yeah, so like I have my share of few injuries since I've been playing football, but like last spring semester, right before like spring season start, like I had a surgery on my right foot because back in high school a couple years ago, like I was playing basketball and I landed weird. Like I landed like that on my ankle. So then I tore like a fracture in my right foot. So then I had screws in there, and the screws been in there for like 5 years. But then last spring, for some reason, I literally woke up and I could not walk.
What?
Yeah, like, and that was like, for me, it's like, I just thought it was just a cramp, like a foot cramp. And then I tried walking off, and that was like probably like the worst pain I've felt in like
Was it just in your foot, or was it your whole leg?
It was literally just in my foot. It felt like someone just like stabbed me, like, I don't know what, but just stabbed me. And just like, I couldn't walk. So then I talked to my trainers, and like, after my MRI and x-ray, I found that I have my screw in my foot had moved. That was causing me the pain why I couldn't walk. So that whole spring football, I could not play. Like I couldn't do anything. Like I literally didn't even practice the whole last spring, and that kind of scared me as an athlete because like I feel like I was like losing my, like you said before, just losing like your spot, being like a starter to like not playing. But then that brought me some respect in my life, just appreciating like the sport way more. Because like after that, I feel like, well, I can't just be down on myself all day. Like I gotta still show up and support my guys, support my teammate. Like those are still my brothers. I'm not gonna be sad for myself just because I'm not playing. But during those days, like,
was there, not to cut you off, was there? You talked about like the like how you downed yourself. During that time, was there a time for you of so much doubt, or like how you talked about downing yourself? How much of a toll was that taking on you mentally, to be like, I'm losing this, you know, I'm losing my grip on this. Like, what did that make you feel like?
Because during that time, I was just real with myself, just knowing where I am. I feel like, yes, I'm injured, I cannot compete. Something as an athlete, you always want to compete for your spot and just like compete in general in everything you do. I feel like I couldn't do that. And just like not even walking, it's like I barely couldn't even stand up. Like just losing that felt like, as an athlete, like, well, I don't want to lose my spot, because I feel like as an athlete that you're pretty much judged on your spot, especially from like people. If they don't see you out there, it's like, well, you're not playing football, you're just on the sideline. But I feel like at that time, it's like I was really considering like, well, I'm gonna lose my spot. But then I just had to like talk to myself a little bit, talk to my coaches, and just see like how they treated me and how they respected me. It's just like I felt fine with that. Like I felt like fine, like I just gotta recover and I'll come back where I am and just better and stronger than ever. So I feel like I just love how they would give me that time to just recover and just work on rehab and just being open with me. Like we know you're hurt right now, but we don't care about starting. We just care about you coming back and being healthy. So I feel like that really gave me an impression about like, okay, they really do care about me, and I can really come back and just bounce back. So like, just them giving me that time helped me a lot, because like I feel like I was struggling like just not starting, because I feel like starter to me is just like the best thing ever. Like, you want to start, and just not preparing that spring for that following fall, because I feel like spring helps you a lot to that following fall in terms of playing. So I feel like just not doing that. But then after I talk to myself, talk to my parents about it, like the best thing I can do right now is just be like the best cheerleader out there.
Right.
Like, it's supporting my teammates and where they need me. I feel like that spring really changed my character. Like, okay, I can be the guy no matter when things are hard, and I can still come back and cheer for his guys. And to me, that just showed me like I'm way more than just football. Like I was saying, I can cheer my guys, and when I'm at my lowest. So that's one injury I had that really helped me. But then this fall camp, the second day of fall camp, I broke my middle finger. So then I was out for like the first 3 games. And again, not an injury in my life, not an obstacle. I feel like, over my life, I just had to overcome obstacles just to be around. And I feel like that injury, it felt bad not playing 3 games. But then I thought about the spring, like, well, if I can come back happy than ever and missing way more weeks than just 3 games, and I can come back strong and just be there. So I feel like during that time I just had to support my teammates, be the best teammate I can be, and they helped me through stuff I was going through, just like doubting myself, like self-love and all that. So like they came in clutch for me, just like, you got this, like you'll be back in 2 more weeks, you got 1 more week, like it's game day, like you can play now. So like,
I was gonna ask you, like, and I'm glad you brought that up, like the mental dialogue. I was gonna, like, what was your mental dialogue like during that time? You brought up like self-love and whatnot. Like, how did that even come about? Like, how did you even get to that point of like how down were you? Like, what made you, how did it get there, and how did you overcome it?
I guess like just being an athlete and just not competing is like the toughest thing ever, and just seeing guys that you love so much not showing like appreciation to the game. Just like, I don't know, I feel like it's hard, because I was watching some Inky Johnson on like the pivot, and it's talking about like his biggest struggle after his injury, like watching guys who are fully healthy not competing when they have all the God-given ability and they're wasting it. I feel like watching that really helped me, because like I was watching that from a perspective, like watching my teammates, some guys who are not hustling in the boat. I feel like I could be doing that, but I can't right now. So I feel like that changed my perspective, and like I was just down bad where like I couldn't see myself like being that good again. Couldn't see myself like running as fast as I can again. So I feel like all that just comes in play. Just, I don't know, it just tweaks with your mind. It's like, can we come back and be the same athlete as I was? Can I still come back and still have like my same starting spot, or like can I like come back and still perform and produce like as much as I can? I feel like all that starts going through my head, but then something that really helped me out was just like, again, God, knowing my identity, having my parents, my coaches, my team by my side, just encouraging me on, and all they care about just me as a player. I mean, not just me as a player, but just me as a person. Like they care about like a person, not just a player. So I feel like all that helped me, and then when I came back, I was able to do exactly everything I did. I even felt better than before. So I feel like all that just helped me. All the encouragement was much needed for me to come back stronger than ever.
That's crazy. Would you say your parents were probably the people that you leaned on the most in that time? Okay. Yeah. That's great, man. That's a great story. I love comeback stories like that. I just love hearing about them. They're big, man. They're life definers, you know, if anything. So. But like I remember like my own experience with injury. I tore my labrum in college. I tore it 2.5 years before. I just didn't know it. I was playing junior college ball at the time. Big guy blocked me straight in my shoulder. At that time, I'm just a little tight, you know. So he blocked me right in my shoulder, tore it. I didn't know it. I went to get it checked out, you know, the very next day. They said it was like a sprain or whatever. I couldn't even lift it up. So I was like, man, like a sprain's not right, but that's what I wanted to hear. So. I went right back at it, you know, did what I had to do, like, because again, like in that fearful mindset, I don't want to lose my spot. Like I'm here to try to get out of here to go do something different, you know, to make an opportunity for myself. So again, like that's where like my mental ability at that time, again, like probably played against me, like to continue to hurt myself like that. But lo and behold, like things did end up working out in my favor. I was able to get out of there within the coming months and sign to my school. And once I got there, it got re-aggravated like a year, 2 years into it. During the practice, just a regular routine wrap up, somebody wrap up tackling me, we just practice form tackling. And he just struck me in the right spot. And I would just remember being on fire, like man, like that really hurt. And we end up going, get checked out, having surgery 3-4 days later. And when you hurt your shoulder, it's everything. It's all your mobility. So I remember feeling like, all right, I've been here at Southwest Minnesota State for 2 years. All that work that I've put in to this time, just gone. It's scheduled and it's projected to be a 9 to 12 month injury to come back from it. I'm like, I don't have 9 to 12 months. Like all we do is wait for this time of year. Yeah. Especially like when you're in one of those colleges like I was, in Marshall, Minnesota, like in the middle of cornfields. So I'm like, man, like this is all I wait for all year, and this is at the very beginning of the season, and I'm gone for the rest of the season. So man, like the mental wear down that it did on me, and how like in my own head I got about it, just not being, again, like speak from a competitive standpoint, not to be able to do what you feel like you should be doing, not to be able to relate to the guys that, like you said, are fully healthy, they're running around, spinning around, hitting, doing this, doing that, and you're like, that's what I'm supposed to be able to do, and I can't do that right now. That was so tough. That was one of the hardest things I feel like I had gone through. And again, like it being your shoulder, like it being my shoulder, it was everything. So they didn't allow me when I got the surgery, finally got my cast off probably like 3 months later or something like that. And I remember like wanting to work out and wanting to like just go right back to being the person that I was before, the athlete that I was. And they're like, no, you can't do anything. Like you have to chill, you have to let this heal. It's your shoulder. Like when you run, you're using your shoulders. When you're lifting anything, you're gonna tense your shoulders up. It's gonna make it bad. Even with your legs, you're gonna tense your shoulders naturally. So I'm like, oh, what can I do? And they're like, you have to relax. Yeah. And I remember like just being in my, I didn't live in a dorm, I lived off campus then. And I remember being in my house and just being like, this was making me feel like I was so far off of my goals, off my lines of what I had set out for myself that, man, I can't even explain it. Like it was just so deep to me, And then fast forward a couple months later, and I'm trying to get back into it, I came back a little bit earlier than the timeline that was set out, and I remember getting back in the gym for the first time, and my first time doing bench press since. And I had, usually like our little warm-up weight, we just kind of throw around. It'll be like the one plate, it'll be 135, and you're used to just, slinging it out. Man, I got under it, and I remember it felt like 300 pounds. And I had lost 25 pounds, I want to say. So I hadn't been that small since high school. And I'm like, man, like I said, like everything I had worked for, gone. And I'm like, that was my mentality about it anyway, just gone, washed. And then getting back under those plates, man, I remember wanting to cry. I remember wanting to quit. I remember wanting to just be like this is it. Like I did not just do all that hard work for it to be in this moment, and I'm struggling, and I'm right back, at the very beginning, worse off than I was in high school. And I remember like going home to myself that night and just being like man, this is what I give my life to. This is what I, have dedicated, all of my effort, my energy, my spirit into. I love this game. And it broke me down so much that it ended up giving me the complete opposite perspective of like, okay, like if you love this so much, then you need to look at this in a better light. You need to look at this in a better way. Like, let's bounce back. We just gotta take those baby steps. We gotta just step it through. You're not gonna be the athlete that you were 6 months ago, 7 months ago. You just progressively step it through, and we're gonna return, like you talked about with your injury, better than ever, And it's when I adapted that mentality is when things really started picking up for me. and I got back in the swing of things, and I did. I felt the same way. Like I came back better than that. You knew a little bit more. You know, being around it, you saw the game from a different perspective. Like
Definitely
you think,
did.
yeah. Like you see it visually, and you're like, okay, I'm understanding the mental parts of the game, the X's and O's better, and stuff like that. So then once you got out there on the field, executing was easy. You know, so it's one of those things you kind of just got to say, okay, we'll see. You got injured. It sounds bad in hindsight, but we'll see if it's really all that bad, you know. And that's the approach that I've taken with life in general since then. Like something bad happens to you, we'll see. Something good happens to me, we'll see. We'll see if it's actually good, you know. And that was just that one particular situation gave me that perspective. And again, that's like just being vulnerable with myself, being vulnerable internally gave me that opportunity to even dig up that perspective. So that was huge for me, man. But that was my injury story, and man, it was a major one, but at the same time, like life changing for the better, for sure. But yeah. So
I guess like just like you said, like as like we'll see. I feel like for me, it's like I feel like God just put us like having faith like God just tests us every once in a while, put us like tough situations and see how we handle things. I feel like those moments really build true character.
Right.
Like, you can say you have good characters until you face adversity. Then that really like checks you out and just like, well, say you're this, but then you're not who you think you are.
Right.
Like, that's when reality really hits you hard, and I really think about myself, who am I?
Right.
It's like those talks, those conversations and stuff. I feel like because our coach says a lot about mental toughness. I feel like that's like this first saying, mental toughness. I feel like having mental toughness, it's not as easy as it said it is. It's just like having like your brain come out, just like, okay, just, I don't know.
Right.
He just talks such good thing about mental toughness, how like we should like prepare our brain for anything bad that can happen. I feel like having a good sense of mental toughness just really helps you out in those scenarios, because like anything can happen at any time.
That's
like,
right.
But if you're prepared for it and know how to handle things, it's gonna help you out in the end. So
I
like
love,
how you should just think about like the bright side of things.
Yeah, I love that he's emphasizing that.
Yeah.
That's big, man. That's huge for anybody to have, and that's not everywhere. That's the unfortunate, like truth of it all. That message isn't everywhere. As much as we wish it to be, it's just not. But I love that it's happening, and that it happened for you that way, that you have that experience, and going into your senior year here. Excited for you to do big things and continue to be enveloped in that culture and make things happen, man. Like I just look forward to watching you compete this year, to following your career the rest of the way, and seeing where things go, man.
Same here. Hopefully we end up winning more conference championships, getting more rings.
Right.
But I don't know, I'm just excited for this upcoming season, like my last season in college ability-wise. And I'm just prepared, just knowing my role. If that's starting or being this backup, like I'm at a point where I am right now where I'm comfortable just being who I am and just knowing my role. And that if I'm starting or supporting my guys, that's who I am, and I'm just looking up for it and just seeing what happens next fall.
I love that, man. If you had to tell the other athletes out here one thing about their mental capacity, or we'll do it in this one here. If you had to tell them one thing, what would you say about their mental capacity? What will help them?
I guess just being true to yourself. Like the more I think about it, like the more like we're just more just athletes. I feel like that's, as an athlete, like it's hard to say, because like you consume so much of your life in that sport, and you think that's who you are. Like I'm sorry, which camera am I looking at?
I know which one. So he's looking here. I'm looking at. That's what you were saying. Okay. I got you. Okay.
You can't ask me that question.
I am. I got you. Okay. If you had to tell athletes that's gonna do it after you one thing about their mental toughness, their mental capacity, how they should approach their mental strength, what would you tell them? I
guess like just telling ourselves like we're more than just athletes. I feel like people just put us in this box that's just athlete on it, when you're just more than that. Like you're a person, you're a human, like you're someone who have